Mystery at Blind Frog Ranch. A shadow of legend drapes the highland meadows and plateau edges of central Mexico. Here, in the arid zone where cacti stretch skyward and ancient stones lie half-buried beneath rosy dust, the faint echoes of the Aztec Empire still pulse. Somewhere in that wind-scoured terrain lies the vanished home of an ancient people, an origin myth waiting to be uncovered. This is the story of a modern journey into myth and earth, an expedition in search of home amidst ruins and secrets, finding the home of the ancient Aztecs, presented in the spirit of mystery at the Blind Frog Ranch for Discovery Channel. At twilight, the sun slides behind the western hills, turning the scrubland to molten gold. A small research camp sits quiet in a remote valley, ringed by jagged peaks. Trucks, tents, equipment, satellite dishes, and dusty SUVs form the temporary hive of activity for a putative archaeological team. The group came chasing rumors, fragments of codices, stone fragments engraved with unfamiliar glyphs, lore passed down by locals about once grand temple foundations under layers of soil. Ancient stories mention a place called Aztlan, the ancestral homeland of the Mexica, before they migrated to Tenochtitlan. The question haunting this field team is whether Aztlan was real, whether its ruins remain hidden, and whether those ruins might exist in this landscape. Each dawn, expedition members trek out across the crown-dried brush. Surveyors wield magnetometers and ground-penetrating radar, scanning grid after grid in search of subsurface anomalies. Satellite imagery reveals geometric shadows in the plain, rectilinear outlines that could mark once planned enclosures. Patterns in vegetation trace walls beneath. These faint tracings lead to trenches, lowered into the earth to reveal what lies beneath centuries of sediment and centuries of neglect. In the first trench, a faint line of cut stone appears, perhaps part of a foundational wall. Beside it, fragments of pottery, colored sliver blue, with fine brushwork hint at ceremonial use. The stylistic details, edge-painted bands, stylized spirals, mica particles, suggest a time older than the well-known Aztec Empire of the 15th-16th centuries. Radiocarbon dating from charcoal in an adjacent fire pit returns a calibrated date of around 900 CE. That places it long before the height of Aztec power, before migration south, perhaps belonging to a Proto-Aztec or Nahua group that later gave rise to the famed Mexica. A quiet thrill ripples through the camp. The outlines of origin may indeed be forming. The season stretches onward. Additional trenches reveal more foundation ruins. Stone stairs oriented toward equinox sunrise, aligned on astronomically significant axes. A partial platform with stepped terraces. A sunken courtyard, perhaps a ritual space. Microscopic residue on pottery suggests maize, beans, and squash, staples of a settled agricultural community. Botanical remains include wild amaranth and agave pollen. Small obsidian flakes cluster in spots suggestive of tool-making stations, sharp edges linting in the dusty soil. Each shard is a clue, each soil sample a whisper of past structure. Meanwhile, the search for inscriptions becomes urgent. The Mexica left behind pictorial codices and glyphic stones, but if this is Aztlan, inscriptions could be rare or encoded in unfamiliar idioms. At the edge of one excavation, a carved slab emerges, weathered, lichen-covered, a mysterious pattern of interlacing animals, possibly jaguar motifs, set against spirals of rain and cloud. The carved lines seem worn by time but deliberate. Specialists suggest iconography echoing cosmovision, sky serpent rains, earth ridge mountains, labyrinthine migration paths. No overt glyph letters, yet symbolic language nonetheless. It's as if the people encoded origin in metaphor, sketching images that spoke to a collective memory rather than a strict script. The atmosphere grows suspenseful, reminiscent of mystery at the Blind Frog Ranch. Supernatural associations, eerie natural phenomena, curious local legends. Locals recount river frogs that go blind, their floundering forms seen in pools under the full moon. They say the frogs croak in strange patterns when thunder approaches or when tremors roll through the earth. Such folklore intertwines with tales of hidden tunnels leading into caves beneath the plateau, grottos rumored to be ancient ceremonial chambers covered by time. Some villagers warn of evils lurking where trespassers dig too deep. Others speak of lost shrines echoing with ancestral song. The stories amplify the expedition's drama. Each flash of storm lightning over the camp triggers both scientific caution and primal awe. One night, lightning cracks across distant ridges, thunder rolling like drums. Rain falls in hard sheets, sluicing away finer topsoil in prepared trenches. In the morning, collapsed walls are exposed. Layers of building stone washed clean before revealing. The rain uncovers the roof beams of a subterranean chamber, beams now fragile, undermined by collapse. The archaeologists erect tops and braces to stabilize the entrance. As water recedes, a narrow shaft opens downward, inscribed stones stepping into darkness. Cameras lowered into the shaft show carved steps descending, walls lined with painted plaster, fresco fragments of deep indigo and red ochre, tones associated with sacred spaces. A chamber once hidden becomes visible when rain, storyteller by accident, washes away millennia. Without crossing into fantasy, the surroundings evoke mythology. The cavern is cool, humid, scented with earthen dampness. Water drips along walls, carving rivulets over plastered murals. In the faint glow of handheld lights, figures on walls appear. Dancers with feathered headdress, deities of rain and maize. Figures holding ocelot pelts. The chamber seems oriented toward an underground spring. The drip of water is rhythmic. The pool at the chamber's end gleams. It strikes the team that this subterranean grotto may have been a foundational shrine to water ancestor or rain deity. The origin spirit of a people who believe themselves born from migratory pathways and elemental cycles. Lab analysis confirms that murals, pigments, and plaster date to around 900–1000 CE. The obsidian and ceramic styles link to Nahua cultural patterns. Combined with orientation of architecture towards solstice sunrises and subterranean water worship, the team begins to interpret the site as a Proto-Aztec ceremonial center, possibly Aztlan, or at least a key ancestral settlement to the Mexica. Ethno-archaeologists piece together lore from Nahua language specialists. Aztlan means place of whiteness, but also place of herons. The site's seasonal heron breeding on nearby lakes may fit that name. Migrant tradition from the central Mexican highlands speaks of a sacred valley originally inhabited before southern migration. This place matches soil fertility, altitude, and water sources recounted in those oral traditions. Taken together, the iconography, the settlement layout, the local ecology, it becomes plausible that this is indeed the fabled homeland. Over weeks of careful excavation, more emerges. A sunken road leading toward the marshland gives access to an upland village. Remains of goats, cornfields, storage pits, and ritual caches appear. A particularly ornate cache holds maize cobs colored red, blue, and white, maybe symbolic seeds that tie agricultural fertility to ethno-religious identity. Nearby, carved stone markers seem to denote clan sections. Obsidian blades, sharpened by unattached specialists, were scattered in layout suggestive of ceremonial deposit rather than refuse. The lines between myth, migration, and ritual presence begin to blur. This community was both physical and symbolic, serving as anchor for identity later carried south to the Valley of Mexico. Equipment is moved elsewhere. Excavations expand into a small plaza. A low-lying amphitheater of stone benches, semicircular and oriented toward the rising sun, suggests gatherings to watch astronomical events. Corn-dried pollen residues on the structure's stone benches reveal repetitive gatherings timed to planting season, harvest festival, or solstice rites. Combined with the subterranean shrine, the site forms a cohesive ceremonial center, not a scatter of huts. Satellite imaging shows the settlement once extended far beyond, now obscured by wind-blown dunes and centuries of agricultural expansion. Heat stress and dust challenge the team. Solar batteries power the weatherproof scanners. Engineers drill to test water reserves. Meanwhile, a geochemist tests residue in water source pools for isotopes, confirming the long-standing presence of a freshwater spring. The spring may have been sacred, a sacred source of sustenance and symbolism. Many Mesoamerican groups revered water springs as origins of life. Here, underground chambers open into a pool. Blossoms once floated in deep water. Small offerings may have been made. A flower-shaped basin, carved in limestone, may have held ceremonial water. The link becomes evident. This is likely an origin place, a home of ancestral beginnings. By mid-season, artifacts are sent to labs north and south. Botanical remains extracted via flotation reveal domesticated squash seeds. Bones of dogs, birds, even one small human infant burial are carefully exhumed. Experts determine the child had special care taken, buried with obsidian blade, jade bead, shell ornament. The infant may have died in early settlement, yet buried with honor, possibly symbolically representing new beginnings or renewal. Interpretation suggests a community deeply invested in ancestry, cycles of life, death, and rebirth, an origin ritual for a people about to set out on migration.